Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and here's the second presentation, and that's all about threat and error management, TEM. Threat and error management, and today what we're going to have a look at is the threat environment. First of all, just a quick one about the definition again. A threat is defined as events or errors that occurs outside the influence of the flight crew. That's the important part. It's not caused by the flight crew, but it increases the operational complexity of the flight, and it requires the crew's attention and management if safety margins are to be maintained. So threats they're real. In fact, I don't think there is something or a place that you can say is a threatless environment. There are risks everywhere, and everything that poses a risk, in other words, is a threat. All right, so let's look at a couple of the examples that I brought in here today. Well, first of all, there's the medium or environmental threat. Just a picture to show you, and that looks quite serious. I mean, I'm not going to try and fly into, below, or whatever in this guy. Okay, and by the way, when it comes to weather, it's like every month somebody falls out of the sky. Or no, maybe they don't fall out of the sky, but they fly into a piece of granite which was embedded inside a cloud or mist. I don't understand. What are they doing there? And excuse me if I'm a little bit upfront right from the beginning, and people say, yeah, but you know, he paid the highest price. Really? Really? There can only be a highest price if there was a cause. But just to die these days in low flying and into mountains and into bad weather we shouldn't be, there's no cause. Waste. It's just a waste. So think before you move. Right, there's a couple examples. First of all, I say other aircraft or obstacles during your taxi, takeoff, landing phases. Now this is, I know we're going to be up and down, yeah, but you're repeating yourself. No, I'm not sure if I repeat myself enough, because the obstacles are there. And the more we get used to that in our own environment, the bigger is the chance or the risk that we're going to, or that it's going to pose a threat and it can actually hurt us. So just don't become comfortable at home base, all right? Keep your eyes open. Keep looking around. We've got parachuters, we've got helicopters, we've got aircraft, we've got solo students, we've got a lot in the circuit. People at flying events. At flying events, everybody just bumbles in. And then on the ground, that is where my big story comes. Come on, guys and girls. You cannot allow anybody to walk in amongst the aircraft. It's family, it's friends, it's children. You know, it's just the time before somebody's going to be ripped up by a prop, and then, really, we know. A turret of a helicopter, in certain light conditions, you actually cannot see it. Anyway, never mind. Okay, animals and people on the runways. Now, this is normally where there's unmanned airfields, and that is exactly where we operate. Unmanned airfield, most of us. All right, okay, if you're in the airline, you're pretty okay because you're on a controlled environment. There may be runway incursions, but you've got a whole team to look after. And if there's an incursion, to sort of, you know, try and sort that out before it really affects you from a danger point of view. But we're not that lucky. No, I'm not saying who's better or who's worse. The point is that we've got to be ultra alert. I know for a 747 to take evasive action at number 99 on a landing is probably quite impossible, whereas with a light aircraft, you could probably do that. The point is we're operating in an uncontrolled environment. You have to be hyper awake for somebody else that's going to enter into your environment. Poor runway conditions. For non-registered airfields, all right, I can, you know, that's their poor airfield signage, painting markings, runways, not properly marked clothes, inoperative navigational aids, all the kind of stuff. This is so normal, and you would say to me that, okay, but that doesn't sound like it's in a controlled environment. Well, many of the case studies that I've seen is where the signage and the markings and the paintings, I don't think it is just a human thing, all right? Who are you going to blame after you got hurt? Does it really matter? You still got hurt, all right? So be careful. Don't become nonchalant and it's not my problem. Everything concerning yourself is your problem. Everything. Some machine threats. Okay, I know everybody else is looking at different stuff and, but these vlamgatte, they make a lot of stuff here out of the back when they start moving, and that can be a threat. You can walk into the tips of things and you'll say to me, okay, but that's not what the photograph is all about. Okay, I know the photograph is not all about that, but it's amazing how we walk onto the flight line and all of a sudden we get mesmerized by our aircraft, and we get then in our peripheral vision and our peripheral hearing and all that, we become a little bit blind and dumb to the environment. So we must just wake up and understand that there's real threat out there. A little bit more of the threat examples. Weather conditions, obviously. And here I'm thinking about density, altitude, thunderstorms, dust storms, wind shears. I mean, you can go through the whole category. We've got a whole book of things that say what it is. Again, yeah, no, we'll fly and we'll see what the weather's like on the way. I understand that. How do you keep the door open to go back? When is the time that you're going to fly into the stuff and you've closed the door behind yourself? Think about that one. High terrain or mountainous areas along a flight path, it's always a little bit of a problem if you fly low. Controlled airspace where not intended to enter, okay, then that's an incursion, obviously. And there's aircraft, you're not on the same frequency. There's aircraft on different frequencies. So that's basically a point on itself. Congested flight, special rules areas, going up to Joburg and all these places with the special rules areas, and everybody is zooming up and down and left and right. And there is a magnitude of frequencies. You've got to be on the right stuff. It means you've got to plan. Don't bumble into these places without proper planning and proper briefing about somebody that has actually been there. I know you think that you're super cool, and I know that you're super cool, but you're not that cool. You first need a little bit of guidance. Well, all of us do. All right? ATC controller errors. Poor English. And we don't understand. Well, maybe the pilot has got, English is not my first language, you know. Maybe I came from somewhere else. I don't know. Well, I can't do the accent thing, so I can't speak like Germans and all that. But I nearly thought I must try one of those, but I'm not going to try the pronunciations. And sometimes with the different people speaking, it's difficult to hear them. Even in our country. Remember, we've got how many languages? 12, 13, I don't know. There's many different languages, and people speak in those tongues, and it's difficult for them to actually be 100% clear. So, what do we say? Everybody, those in the towers and those in the aircraft, work on your pronunciation so that somebody can clearly hear what you want to say and what you're saying. And don't just go, this doesn't work. Okay, it's only in the movies that one can work. I thought to bring this one along, you know, because the condition of man as a threat, you know, I've been looking at this. Yeah, what a poor, sorry sight and a human being. And just by the way, flying and any kind of drug doesn't mix. Can't. It slows down your reactive processes, and in this game you get probably one chance. And it's not a chance, okay, maybe, you know, we'll do the job tomorrow, or we can ignore that it's there. You're not in government service when you fly. You can't ignore anything. It will not go away. The mountain in front of you is going to pretty much get bigger. So pay attention and be in the condition to pay attention. A couple of more threat examples. Congested radio traffic, that's always a thing. Who's talking to who? And, let's just get this thing. You must learn in an environment to start this. You've got to listen and discern. These people talking, should I listen now? So in other words, we keep quiet inside the cockpit. First listen to what I'm saying, and then we carry on. All right? So be very careful of chatterboxes inside the aircraft. It's nice to have a good conversation, but take a breather in between, okay? So that you don't clutter the air waves inside the cockpit by talking too much. Fuel management, especially when planning. You know, the reserves are not necessarily enough, and a lot of people I know, they don't care about the reserves, and, you know, I've done it 100 times, and the engine will only cut after 3 hours. But in the meantime, they service the aircraft, and they put a different fuel tank in, and now the engine is going to cut in maybe 2 hours and 45 minutes, but you're thinking you're still obviously cool. We've got to plan these things. Yeah, it was just a helicopter accident, you know, where the people got used to how long they could fly on the old tanks, and then they put the bladder tanks in. Crew and duty time. There is, I'm talking about unexpected fatigue, which leads to inattention to the threats. Fatigue has got that thing. Look, nobody wants to say that they are fatigued. And somebody says, yes, but you look so tired. All right, I'm going to look better next time. The fact is, if you're tired, if you're overworked, I'm not talking about lazy, okay? Lazy is not the point. But the point is that you need to be able to pay full attention at the time. Passengers' distraction, I spoke about that last month, and the time pressure to rush. The rush. What do they say? You can't rush in. There are so many sayings, but the rushed pre-flight, the rushed takeoff. Remember, people that's on standby and that's going to do the very quick reaction takeoffs and stuff, they've got certain procedures in place that when they start doing this stuff, they're okay. But you and I, because I'm going to be late for the sortie because somebody, other fool is phoning me, and this wants to know that, and that guy wants to know that, and everything, and your family is in between, and the cat has scratched the dog, and I don't know what, and that all, and now we must go and fly. You've got to get your mind right and put in there. I'm probably talking to myself at this stage of the game, because rushing into it, I would sit there in the aircraft and I'll think, you know, I wish this person just wanted to be a little bit faster, you know, that's a little bit slow. And then I remind myself that, what is the rush? Where are we going? Whether this sortie is going to take an hour or an hour and 3 minutes, is that extra 3 minutes that it's going to take us worth it? Well, you make the sum. It's your life. I think it's worth my life, so I'm going to pay a little bit more attention. Whoa. Okay, man threats, and I'm not, you know, when I looked at that, what picture do you put in for man threats? But there's, in man, our makeup. Remember, we've got our stuff like knowledge, and we've got skills, and our attitudes, and we've got our bodies. So in all those, you could find threats. No. But I still thought that was a pretty good picture. Threat example 4, refueling by oneself. Whoa, refueling by oneself or a third party not supervised, what fuel type, quantity, contamination, and so on and so forth. Many times when, you know, and it's happened to me, you're in the veld and you're refueling between sorties and wow, you gotta get airborne and, you know, the guys want to do the game work and the helicopters are buzzing and all that kind of stuff, only to find that you forgot to put the fuel cap on once you're airborne. Well, the biggest crisis with that thing is that you've got to buy a new fuel cap. But you know, on your aircraft, if you've lost that, you're not going to see stuff going out. You're not in the condition or in a place where you can actually land back easily. Oil caps. Hey, you know how many oil caps has been gone? They come back and the whole engine is full of oil. Did you close it? Of course the person is going to say that they closed it. But that's why we double check on each other, because we are human. And if the human does not want to learn, slap him a bit. He will learn quicker. Loading of the aircraft by third parties, not attending, weight and balance. You cannot let other people sort out your aircraft. Maintenance errors. Maintenance errors. Maintenance. We're trying to buy an aircraft. Well, not for me at this stage, but for another customer. And the first thing is we look at the books. The books is a mess. The stuff is not complete. It's not there. Nobody's ever going to know that it's not there unless they need to sell the aircraft. Or if the CFA of that aircraft is lapsed and it must be inspected, then they'll all of a sudden find out, hey, but these things, they weren't in order. Come on, guys. Put some pressure on the AMOs. They've got to get it right. And by the way, if you go out there and you're going to do test flying on an aircraft, you're supposed to check all these things. Are they there? I will take a sneaky bet that probably the half of the grade 2 test pilots in South Africa hasn't got a cook and clue what is the requirement, well, firstly from their side, and the other side, what is that from the AMO? What is it that you must check up? Some pilots has never opened those books. Okay, am I fighting with you? No, I just feel sorry. Because in our game, sorry, as a rule, normally comes too late. Okay, so let's see what else I've got here. Oh, the mission threat. I thought this was a very, very apt picture to show. Flying is a balancing act. There is a lot. There are. You see, here goes the English thingy. There are a lot of threats out there. We've got pressure from outside. We've got the clouds and the stuff. And we've got everything else that's going on. All right. Hey, that's just a normal, straightforward sortie. I'm going to go fly to the dam and back. Have you got mission threats going to the dam and back? Okay, to the dam and back. Damn sure you have got problems because there might be other aircraft. There is somebody, there's something. You've got to look after the aircraft. You can look at your personal space in which you fly. That's all yours. Whoa. Whoa. I'm going to repeat myself and say, are you going to blame the ATC if somebody else flies you out of the sky? I don't think you will have the ability to blame anybody or anything. So, you know, we pretty much got to do things up in advance. Right, let's push on. Poor or no flight planning. Okay, that we have said so many times. Any information not available due to poor third party support. Ooh, we've got, well, not all of us, but some of us got operations rooms. Guys, if you are dispatching an aircraft You take responsibility for many of the threats that your sortie or your pilot or your crew is going to be exposed to. What are you doing to help them as well? I'm not just talking to the pilots here. Remember, it's everybody. This is a crew thing. It is from the people working on the aircraft, people sweeping the flight line, people looking at things, and everybody has got a part in it. It is, I think some people think that because they've got money and they've got an aircraft and they're super cool and that it's all that. No, there's a whole lot of people that's behind you. Yes, I know you've got the money and that's very cool and all that kind of stuff, but I don't care how rich you are, sir. I want to be safe in the airspace as well. So there's like a sort of an equalizer. The sky is an equalizer. There's no real status up there. There can't be status. There's only me, the aircraft, the environment, and the possibility of tragedy. Or fun. Sorry. Don't want to get this negative. I love the fun part. But remember, we've got to be alive to have fun. So look after yourself. Look after the environment. Think. And I've said that many times. Anytime whether the navigation emergency systems they are not within the reach. Ooh, look at stuff on board that is not in reach that you need. The moment that you start, where in the aircraft, where is it? And I can't get hold of that. I've got to go and shoot an approach here, but my lead-in plates is lying in the back. I need a sip of water, but the water is right there at the back. What are you going to do? Climb out and go to the back? I don't think so. Oh, by the way, don't even try that. All right? Okay, if you're in a 747, you can get out and go to the back. All right, you'll probably have an aerostat that you can tell it to bring. But I've got no aerostasis in my 172 or P-828, 140 or 180. So the environment that you operate in, the pilots must make sure that you've got hands on, that you can physically get your hands on anything and everything that you may need. But that takes planning. Right, let's see. Software. What is software? And I put there management as well. Remember, software refers to the rules and regulations that is espoused by the aviation fraternity. We've got the cats in the cars, and we've got all the 1,000 other rules, and we've got the aircraft operating stuff, and we've got the stuff around the airfield, and then we've got all the sciences. And there's rules that you can break, or try and break, but there's no scientific rule that you can break, because the rule will remain. You're going to break. Somebody said to me, all right, and if I don't know about the rule, you're going to be equally dead. It doesn't matter whether you tried it or not. So, you know, before we enter into a phase of flight, know what you're going to do. But people are scared because they don't want to be criticized. Why not? Because only through constructive criticism can you move to the next level of competency. Otherwise, you'll just stay a hero in your own eyes and in your own mind. But in reality, man, you're a menace. Okay, get help. Okay, it's not that serious. Threat response. The knowledge of something that may be a threat is very good for a starting point, I say that, and that is it, and knowledge only. You know, we have to think about these things and move it. You know, in these auditing courses, then the people say, okay, how many times have you walked through that hangar? No, 1,000 times. Okay, now we're going to go into the hangar and we're going to look for all the possible things that can be classified as a hazard. And by the way, you cannot say there's nothing. I want at least a minimum of 10 things that can constitute a hazard. Hazard. Then the people come back, and you know what? They struggle to get less than 10. It's always more, because now we've got focused attention. So when it comes to something that could pose a threat to us, focus your attendance. Focus. All right. The single pilot must be ready with an antidote for such threats. So there's a deliberate preparation for each identified threat. The pilot should consider his flight and do a threat analysis. And that is what the CAA is preaching, and this is what they want us to do, and that is what they are testing for. So if I go and test somebody, I must make sure, did they contemplate all the threats that could possibly be there? Now you'll say to me, like what? Well, they've done weight and balance, they've seen the aircraft is right, those are all things that could be threats, and the weather, all right? But then also, the local conditions. Oh, there's parachutes dropping, there's helicopters here, there's other aircraft, there's pupil pilots in the circuit, students. Ha! Those are all threats. Okay. Okay. To train how threats should be managed, and it must never be in hindsight, but it's an anticipated action. Training must be conducted by professionals through not through a buddy-buddy system. Ooh, I've seen this buddy-buddy system, because the buddy has trained himself, the buddy is going to help you to train yourself, and everybody helps themselves. And at then we've got a gaggle of, well, people that probably can fly, but they're not even close to professional. They're not giving themselves the best chance of survival. In fact, I don't want just the best chance for survival, man. I want to have a long and a happy life. I want to stay alive so that I can enjoy flying. And how do I know I can enjoy flying? Is that I don't have to put myself in unnecessary risk, or, expose myself to unnecessary threats. Okay. When aware of the threat, the pilot must be prepared as well as willing to manage the threat. And then, as if I look here, I see there's I just got it, this is obviously a threat. These things are really serious threats. And sometimes we don't want to think when we're in, but pilots flying all over the place. Have you got mosquito stuff? Have you got something to look after you? In the earlier days when we did stuff up more north, we had to prepare for malaria. So we drank malaria pills and all that kind of stuff. It didn't really work, but at least we had to take precaution. Have you got sunburn stuff? Have you got something to give you a better chance when you're out there? And then there is this, I don't know if you can call it that's actually, they talk about a low risk, but this is what they call a threat grading. And the threat gradings in terms of, the government, in terms of people that might attack them, and we've got the same problem. Hey, you're staying in the house there. Who are you befriending? Do you really think everybody out there is there just to befriend you because you come from wherever? No. They're going to befriend you and they can see what they can steal from you, how they can be gaining from your pain. Don't invite that in. I'm not saying that we must live in a severe threat and we sit there and panic all day. No. But there is a realistic approach to all this. So whether I'm here, whether I am in Namibia, Botswana, Kenya, Zambia, wherever, when I'm there, I pay attention to the basic rules of survival and protection. It's one of those things that's necessary. And then I just end off by saying pre-warned is pre-armed. And you know that if we just pay a little bit of attention. Now, what is it I want to walk you away, for you to walk away with? Quite simply, I need you to understand that if you do not recognize that there is a certain threat that could influence you, you're going to get one hell of a surprise. All I'm doing here is to say that if you think ahead and you plan ahead, you can minimize the surprise. Until next time, enjoy.